How is everybody doing? I hope you're all well. In this video, I'm going to talk about formats, um, how I got into formats myself and what they kind of meant to me at the time and how I evolved through each one and all that kind of thing. I'm going to start off with, I guess, when I was young, when I was a boy, there's only two formats I really knew about, and that was vinyl LP, and we used to call them records, and cassette. Okay, we call them tapes. But when I actually started buying music, or maybe borrowing music off people in the early 80s, it was going to be a record or a cassette. There was nothing else really at that stage. So for me personally, when I started buying music, when I started going out and actually saying, okay, I'm going to buy Queen, A Night at the Opera. I think that was the first cassette I actually bought inside in the shop in June 1985 when I was a teenager. So for me, because I had a little Walkman cassette player, mini cassette player, that was the format I was going to buy. Vinyl was the same price. Back catalogue stuff, especially, it was about five pounds, I think, for a cassette, and £5 for the vinyl. But the vinyl was kind of not much good to me, because I was saying to myself, okay, I wanted to go cycling, I want to go walking, I want to go running, whatever, and the vinyl LP wasn't appealing because I would have had to take it home and record onto a cassette. And I just didn't want to do that, you know what I mean? I didn't even know how to do it. I'm sure I could do it, but it was a lot of hassle. Now, little did I know that vinyl sounded better than cassette, but I mean, this was 1985. I just wanted to hear the music. So, first thing I started collecting was cassette. So 85, 86, 87, all cassette. Vinyl, I'd see it, and I'd kind of say to myself, yeah, that's, whatever. It was kind of a thing I kind of looked. It wasn't convenient, let's put it that way. But in the meantime, compact disc had come out in the early 80s, and it was running through the 80s, and then there was a lot of ads for compact disc, and a few friends of mine, say around 87, I was in their houses and stuff like that, and next minute they had a CD player, and you see the drawer opening, closing, and the sound was, they said, oh look, there's no crackle, there's no hiss. And there was kind of a placebo. It was like, wow, I remember hearing, I think the first compact disc I ever heard was The Joshua Tree by U2. I think this person bought it just after it came out in 1987. And I was kind of like, wow. I remember hearing Running to Stand Still, and there was no background noise. It sounded realistic in the room, I don't know what kind of hi-fi they had. It was probably one of those middle of the road units and stuff like that with a CD player thrown into it. But yeah, I thought to myself, okay, yeah, that's for me. I'm going to invest in CD, because cassettes, while they were fine and they were cheap, I noticed that the sound quality, there was hiss and stuff like that, and you had to deal with Dolby and stuff like that. And then when you went off to copy something, an album, say it was 45 minutes aside, or roughly a vinyl LP, or trying to copy it onto a 60, there was extra, all these things came into play and stuff like that. So I, cassettes, like I said, they were fine. And I mean, then you had chrome cassettes as well in the 80s, the chrome cassettes, chrome dioxide or whatever they were, the high position, were a little bit better sound and stuff but they sounded fine at the time, don't get me wrong. Every year or two I went out and bought a new Walkman. I used to buy a lot of cassettes up to 88, 89. Yeah, and even recording them, if you want to get a something like a TDK or a Sony high quality chrome cassette, or Type 2 as they call it, or metal even, Type 4, they were expensive, you know what I mean? They were nearly the price of an album. So yeah, cassette was, I loved the idea of recording with it, I loved the idea of recording with it. That was the plus about cassettes. You could record with it. Did it sound fantastic? I guess back then everything sounded fantastic when you're young. You know, everything is wow. You go to a guy's house and he'd have a really fancy cassette deck through a good hi-fi system, and boom, it was like wow, you know. But other than that, I didn't really stay long with cassette. I probably bought maybe whatever. I bought all Queen's albums and stuff, and I'd say by 1990, I was kind of finished with buying pre-recorded cassettes. But I was still buying a lot of blank cassettes and recording stuff, because in '88 I started buying compact discs. It was around midsummer. I bought a CD player, a Technics, and I bought Queen Greatest Hits, and I bought Love Over Gold by Dire Straits. So that takes us into the compact disc era. Now, the CD era, it was hassle-free. A lot of the time there was extra tracks on the albums. Now, they were expensive. I remember paying £15 in 1988 for Brothers in Arms. Like, that's a lot. I mean, now you can buy it for like €8, you know, as a back catalogue album. But, you know, nice artwork on the disc. You put it in. The full-length album was there. You know, the cassette. The cassette and the CD of Brothers in Arms were longer than the LP. The LP is here. So the thing is, this would, you know, clock in at around 45, 46 minutes, but this was, or maybe a bit longer, but this was nearly an hour. So you were getting better value for money. Well, yeah, well, I don't know about that, but yeah. So I would say like that, you know, I stopped. I didn't have a lot of vinyl at the time. You know, I really didn't buy it. I kind of never got into it back then, but hold the line. It's about to change. So from '88 on, all the way through the '90s, it was compact disc, and I amassed a lot of compact discs. I mean, I just kept buying and buying and buying and buying. Everything that came out, I bought in compact disc. I didn't buy any cassette. The odd time I would be in a second-hand shop and I'd find a vinyl LP of an album that I didn't have, and I'd probably buy that. But that was about it, really. And I had a little box of, I'd say by the year 2000, I had a small box of vinyl, maybe 50 or 60, whatever. But it was compact disc, you know. It was convenient. It sounded good. You know, it was the thing. You know, you'd be talking to friends and stuff. Did you get you know, the new Genesis album or whatever? Yeah, I bought it on CD. You know, it was kind of like, you know, oh, I only bought a cassette because I'm traveling a lot, you know, or something like that, you know, or whatever. But yeah, so that was that. And then, of course, in '92, this was launched, mini disc. Now, when this was launched, I was kind of intrigued with it, but I didn't go near it because, number one, it was prohibitively expensive. I think the players were £500 or £600 or something like that. I think you could buy a full-size CD player for, you know, half of what you pay for a mini disc recorder. And they had portables as well. I was happy with my Sony Walkman. You know, I'd buy a CD, copy it onto a metal tape, and I had good reproduction. So I thought it was as good as you get. You know, I used to buy expensive Walkman. But mini disc, it kind of, it was always in the background. It never really took off in Europe. It was big in Japan. But the thing is, it kind of, I remember, you know, talking about it to friends and stuff. Yeah, I'd like to get that idea, but it was kind of, yeah, it's a strange one. And then mini disc actually started coming out in pre-recorded mini discs. But you're kind of saying to yourself, okay, it's a compressed version of the compact disc, which is technically compressed. It's 16-bit, you know. And then you had 24-bit CDs and all that kind of stuff. I won't really get into it. It was kind of you know, a kind of a step-down system. But yeah. Never grabbed me at the time, and you know, it's novel. Number one, you can record your CD on it, or some machines you can record 4 CDs worth of music on it, then it compresses it heavily and it's horrible. But even one for one, it's good, and the player is only, you know, a little bit bigger than the disc. Is the sound better than cassette? I think it's 100 times better than cassette. Well, not 100, but it's, to me, if I listen to mini disc, I cannot listen to cassette. You know, not a hope. As well, the batteries last for ages on these things. So yeah, now we're up to, you know, we'd say the year 2000. All of a sudden, I kind of started DJing and stuff like that, and there was a bit of a kind of a resurgence in vinyl back then, would you believe it? And all of a sudden I just went mad on vinyl. And I think I spent from 2000 to 2010 buying lots and lots of vinyl. I'm sitting in a room here and I can see these 3 or 4 shelves full of vinyl here in front of me. And I've sold a lot of it in the meantime, but it's still a lot here. But yeah, if I kind of got obsessed with vinyl from 2000 onwards, and that's all I ever listened to then. So I kind of tried to not buy compact discs, you know what I mean? So then I started selling compact discs in the mid noughties. I got rid of a lot of back catalogue stuff like Genesis, Queen, you know, lots and lots of CDs, maybe 300 or 400 of the 80s pressings, you know, which I prefer now than anything else, like, you know. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I'm just checking the make sure that the I'm trying to make sure that the video is still running. Yeah, I just kind of got into this vinyl thing, and vinyl wasn't that expensive, you know, 20 years ago, really. You know, an album was 20 euros, but now it's gone insane, you know what I mean? But yeah, I kind of toyed around in the late noughties with MP3 and stuff like that, and in about, you know, over a decade, I converted everything I had, all my CDs and my vinyl, onto a Mac, and I've got 2 hard drives now. Everything's in parallel. It's all in there, all at the highest bit rate, 320 or something like that. And that takes us to this MP3. This is, I have it about 4 years maybe, with wireless headphones. I love this because, number one, it's better than cassette. It's compact disc or vinyl, step down, very, very good to listen to on the fly. I don't really plug it in at home. I use it in the car with one of those FM transmitters because my multi-CD player in the car is kiboshed, but there's a good amplifier and speakers in the car. But this thing, you know, I love it. I think I've used it every single day since I got it. I think I bought it in late 2019, I think. It's a Sony NWA45. This has no internet in it, and you know, I'm happy because I don't want the internet. So this one is crammed up with 120 gigs of micro SD, and there's another, I don't know, 16 on it itself. This is one of the best things I own, and if that never happened to it, I'd be just running out again to buy another one. I love them. Drag and drop on your computer. You know, I have it all organized perfectly well. It's a fantastic thing, yeah. But the thing is, I kind of stopped buying vinyl then around 2010, and then I kind of started buying CDs again and stuff like that. So looking back, what's my favorite format out of all of them? I think compact disc. And I mean, 10 years ago I would have said no, vinyl. But I'll tell you straight, CD, cassette doesn't sound as good as vinyl. Okay, vinyl doesn't sound as good as CD. CD is probably the best format because, number one, you know, you take it, you have it here, and little booklet fell out. You have it here in your hand. You can play it on a CD player at home. You could play it in a car, technically, if you could be bothered. But you can also put it onto the MP3 format, put it onto the player. You can make a copy of it. You know, it's just, and you kind of mind it, and it's your master. You know, you keep it there in your vault, whatever. So, you know, vinyl, a lot of the new vinyl I've bought in the last decade is disappointing. It just sounds really, some albums sound terrible. You know, you're playing it back and it's going, huh? Especially when they put a single album that used to be a single album as a double album now, you know. And I'm bewildered by it, you know what I mean? It just doesn't sound. And now an album is 40 euros, you know, 40 euros. Some of them are 40, some are 25, some are 30, but it's gone through the roof. Like, box sets are 200, 300, you know what I mean? So, you know, I love music. I listen to music every day. Like, I've been rebuilding the vault, as I call it. But the thing is, overall, in the last 4 to 5 years, I've been going back collecting the early pressings of CDs, and I actually prefer them. You know what I mean? The remastered stuff, it just doesn't seem to work for me. As I was saying, I think I might have said it in another video. This Joe Jackson album on vinyl, it sounds fantastic. I had the original CD one time, and the remaster from, is it 97? Just sounds awful. It just sounds fat and bloated. And Tears for Fear is the same. Seeds of Love. Listen to the Bad Man song. That's got a lot of dynamics in it. Starts off with a kick drum. I think it's who's playing drums? Is it Omar Hakim or Manu Katchi? One of these guys anyway. But it sounds fantastic on the original CD. Vinyl's not bad either. But the remaster CD, it's massive. It's so big, so boomy, because it starts off with the kick drum and the hi-hat and stuff like that. And it's beautiful drumming, jazzy kind of style stuff. But then when the guitar comes in, when he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, it gets big. But on the new remaster, that doesn't happen because it's already loud from the start. So it sounds horrible. And the original one sounds better. I have it up there somewhere. But yeah, that's me with formats. Now, don't get me wrong, I still play vinyl, and I still buy vinyl the odd time at record fairs, especially secondhand stuff, and I will rip it. I'll put it onto my computer, make a full CD copy of it sometimes, or else I'll just put it down onto the player and stuff like that, just to have it, especially if it's an album I don't have. I have a lot of stuff, I've got lots and lots of stuff. What I kind of like, what I enjoy doing is if I've got a few albums by a band and they have another 2 or 3, I love going out and finding those on CD or whatever, and just to fill up the stuff. And I'll even buy albums that people give 1 stars to, just to see what it was like. You know what I mean? I'm just like that. I'm a bit nosy. I like to figure out why that album was such a clanger. And when you play it back, sometimes you kind of say, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah." There was 9 crappy songs and there was 1 good one, the single they released, and that's why they disappeared. But yeah, it's interesting. Comment below and tell me what you think of all the formats. One thing you may have noticed is that I haven't mentioned anything here about streaming and stuff like that. It's because I actually don't do it. I've never streamed music. I used Spotify at one stage just to say check out, I'm going to give you an example, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I can check out their back catalogue, bands that I haven't got anything of. And then I can see what albums are good and what albums that I might like from a band like that. I actually did buy an anthology. It's up there somewhere. I got the 2 or 3 CD anthology from ELP, and it's quite good. But a band like Yes, I don't know much about them. I have a Greatest Hits, an anthology, and you go on Spotify and you can just shift through the stuff and see if there's anything interesting there. But I don't stream music. I don't have any music on my mobile device. There is no. I don't use my Apple phone as a music device. I don't use it. I got rid of my iPods. Syncing through iTunes was just too much, and the quality of the iPod sounded terrible as well. The Sony thing is the business. I leave the house, go for a walk. I've got this. I have it here right in front of me. Come back here, sit in the room. I have CD. Sit in the room. For the laugh, I can play a cassette, I can record a cassette, record onto mini disc, just to keep busy, like something to, and when, when you record back onto this, I've stopped carrying these around because, number one, I've got boxes and boxes full of discs that I recorded myself. I can't find them on the way out the door, so that's why this guy does everything. And the sound from this and this, I will say that the mini disc, because I use wired headphones with the players, because they're all wired, sounds a little bit, I think it sounds a little bit better than this, I'll be totally honest. But with wired headphones, this sounds quite good. I would say there's much. One isn't as good, one isn't better than the other, but for some reason I like listening to mini disc, full frequency recording, or the 320, whatever it is. And it sounds really, really, really good from a compact disc and stuff like that. Yeah, so there you go. So that's it. That's all there is to say, really. I just wanted to make this video because there's so many formats and it's all confusing. I kind of have been in one end and out the other. I've done it backwards in some ways, because when I was a teenager, before I started working and all that kind of stuff, I could only afford 1 cassette a month, But in the noughties, I was spending, sometimes I reckon I was spending €100 a week on vinyl. And still have a lot of stuff here. I'm just going to show you one there. I remember buying this in 2001, I think, at Christmas. Yeah, 2001. It was the actual box set of Homework, Discovery, and Alive. They've brought them all out again since. But yeah, you get Homework and you get that. And the card is in the Discovery, the card for the fan club that expired in 2002. But yeah, this is a beauty, But pop it on the odd time, listen to it. It's nice to have it, I can't remember how much I paid for this. I didn't pay much for it, but it's after going crazy in value. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have got to say, really. I can't even get it back onto the shelf. So much stuff there. That's all I got to say. And thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe. And like I said, comment and tell me what you like. People laugh at me. I've had comments in other videos, people laughing at me for this, people laughing at me for this, and laughing for cassettes. Like, I wouldn't take cassettes seriously anymore. But what I like about them is I've got a 3-head Pioneer deck. The odd time I'll take out a TDK or a Sony, and I'll record it and try and record it as best as possible, and maybe use some noise reduction and stuff like that and whatever. And then play it back on the hi-fi and crank it up and see how realistic it is. That's just, like a laboratory test. I like doing that. I like messing with these as well. I'm typing in all the names and stuff by hand. It's tedious. But overall, out of digital formats, this is portable, on the fly. Sorry. I love this. It's my favorite thing. I do have some Sony Discman as well. I've got 3 units. Because if there was ever power cuts for a week on end, if the internet ever dies completely, well, as long as I got a box of batteries, I can actually listen to all my music. I can listen to all this. I can listen to any CD I want as long as I got batteries. And the thing is, I'm sure you can get solar power units as well, like for powering Discman and stuff like that. Anyone who's completely tied to cloud format music is going to be in trouble because they'll have no music. And I kind of got a vicarious kick out of that someone's going to be there crying if there was a power cut or a war or something like that, and they're going to go, I can't listen to Ed Sheeran because my phone won't work, my internet's gone. And I'll be here rocking away to Led Zeppelin and stuff like that in my Sony Discman. So, yeah, Dr. Evil. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe and take care.